Well, hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Hopefully, you are doing well today. Welcome to the Xbox Factor Podcast. Sorry about that interruption. For some reason, my mic just tapped out for a second. It's a brand new mic. Anyway, listen, welcome to today's program. We have an absolutely outstanding show ready for you today. Of course, you know what the topics are. We do have a few smaller bites and bits that jumped onto the plate early this morning that we're going to get into before we start talking about, of course, Sea of Thieves winning a BAFTA. That's a big deal. Of course, we're going to be talking about S.T.A.L.K.E.R.2, which even though we didn't get official gameplay, we got to see some of the in-game engine techniques that they're using to make even the armor on the characters look incredibly real, down to the stitching. And of course, the big one is how I think, based on the information that has been provided to me and has been talked about by some industry insiders that I trust indubitably, Starfield could be delayed until 2022. But first, let's get into, of course, the panel that allows us to have a show, because really there's only so much of Boomstick you can hear talking. First, let's start up with the cog that keeps this show running each and every week. Zemi Games, what's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. Just super excited to be here. Been playing some Ghost of Tsushima. Very little. I bought the game. Super excited about it. I keep wanting to play it. But man, work. Just so much work. And then Outriders, man. Super pumped for that. This Thursday, April 1st, man. Oh, can't wait.
Yes, definitely cannot wait for that. Hold on. So, you know something? We were sitting in the green room bullshitting, right? And I'm in there hanging out. We're talking about everything. We're talking about Zemi being a pony, you know. He's not really a pony, folks. He's an Xbox fan through and through, but he's experiencing his PlayStation 5. And you know what? Why?
I'm cheating a little bit.
You're cheating a little bit.
Will always be Xbox.
Yes, it certainly will.
Green. It's maybe a slight tinge of blue in it right now, but that's just because I'm cheating, guys. Very quickly, I will be back over to Xbox.
Well, you know what? Obviously, we have Outriders. I'm not sure if look for your downloads. Make sure you have the spare room. I just got the notification that they're upgrading Outriders as we speak in anticipation of the April 1st release. I cannot wait to get into it. I know there's been a lot of people who have sunk a tremendous amount of hours into it because your progress does carry over. I got a couple of hours into it and I stopped because I know that you carry over your save, but I kind of want to experience it, you know, with the day one patch and all of the graphics where they need to be and none of the small hiccups that the game was having. So I want to experience it with quote unquote virgin eyes. But before we get into the topics, Pong So, rookie sensation, newly added to this weekly show. Pong, how the heck are you doing?
Man, boom. It's great to be back. I can't believe it's already been a week again. Oh, man, it's crazy how time flies as you get older. But no, excited to be back again, another Tuesday. Topics keep rolling in. Been playing a ton of games when I can. So got on Narita Boy last night. The brand
looks
new,
good.
Looks
good.
Talk about a sensation, man. I saw people tweeting about it all day. I already had it pre-downloaded because I was excited to try it. But man, that game there's something about it. I mean, I know not every game is for everybody, but if you guys got Game Pass out there, try it out because there is something special about the aesthetic and just the feel of the game. It's really cool. Of course, sucked back in. I was going to go to bed at a decent time, and then all of a sudden I got some invites to play NBA 2K. So I had to pop back into NBA 2K, which I do on a regular basis anyways. But yeah, excited for Outriders this week. I think I might actually try to get a half day on Friday so I can put some hours into that.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a great time to be a gamer, Boom. Say it every week, but man, I'm pumped. So glad to be here. Chat. Great to see you all out there this morning and afternoon.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, you're absolutely correct on that. It is a great time to be a gamer. It really doesn't matter where you enjoy gaming. As long as you can pick up a controller and play a game that you're interested in, I think that at the end of the day, you have won. And being Xbox gamers and being that this is an Xbox centric channel, we did get a chance to find out what indie titles are coming the way of Xbox Game Pass later this year, and Stalker 2 is one of those games, and that is pretty awesome, as well as The Ascent, which we're going to be talking about because The Ascent got some new footage.
Incredible.
And to think that only 14 people made that game, it is astounding how polished it already is. Now, we didn't get a release date for several of the games, but one of the games that we got a chance, that we actually got a release date for, has that I've been I guess heralding up, if you will, was Second Extinction. Yep. I think that this is something special. I think that it is exactly what the Xbox needs. It is exactly what the Xbox is about, and that is multiplayer, and that is hanging out with your friends and having a game with dinosaurs that is being compared to Left 4 Dead, except it's 3 people rather than 4, is a compliment that I'm not even sure the devs would have thought that they could have received, because that's a big compliment when you can have your title put into the same conversation as something as iconic as Left 4 Dead. You probably did something right, and I think that being that that's coming out May 28th, I believe it is. I cannot wait to play that, but I do want to get into some of the smaller topics. And this one over here, this one we're going to spend 10 minutes on. And I think that it's relevant to the reach of Microsoft and where and what they are willing to do in order to establish their brand in regions that notoriously have failed for them. We have new information coming in that Microsoft is set to release the Xbox Series S and Series X in China. The date and the price have not been announced yet. Microsoft has already received the relevant hardware approvals, and we also have on the back end of that, PlayStation 5 is looking to go in April or June. But I think that Microsoft going first is a big deal for a lot of reasons. Now, look, Microsoft is clearly and has been dominating the headlines in recent weeks in both positive and negative discussion. Now, again, you know how, if you listen to Primetime Gaming, we had a monster panel. And, obviously there were some knuckleheads that, came in. Listen, we're all human beings. We're all entitled to our own personal opinions. I thought the show that was allowed to be run by Twitch was a misstep. I think Phil Spencer knows it. I'm hoping that he comes out and actually admits it, that we don't have to keep playing this game of hot potato. I think Aaron Greenberg knows that the people, including big Xbox supporters like myself, were immensely disappointed. I talked about it again last night on how minutes up until the event occurred, I had no idea it was going to be a 4-hour show. You know what that tells me? The Achilles heel that Microsoft still continues to go unbandaged is their messaging. And if someone as myself, and I don't put myself on a totem pole here, folks, I'm invested in this industry a lot more than many people know, and A know, and B give me credit for. I work on this channel for 7 days a week, and it's very rare that I take a break. Now, I don't want a pat on the ass from anybody for it. That's my choice. But that's how dedicated I am to you folks. I want to make sure that the content I'm putting out is correct. And if I do not have the relevant information for an Xbox show, as invested as I am in the brand, then there's something wrong. There's someone dropped the ball, and I don't want to start pointing fingers, but questions need to be asked, right? So with all of that said, they've been more positive than negative. Here's my question to the panel. Here's my question to the chat. In your opinion, how important is this launch into China? And can Microsoft successfully venture into a region that in past attempts have not been successful? Why will this time be different? Zemi, I want to go to you first on this.
So, a lot of the times on the show, I like to spit out numbers, and I like to say, statistics and stuff. And I'm going to do that again. China is the #1 market for global gaming revenue, right? That means, in a year, all of the revenue pulled in through the gaming industry, China, creates more revenue, right? It is a huge, huge, huge market. The United States, I think, is a little bit underneath it. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars, of course, a little bit by billions of dollars, but even still, proportionally, it's a little bit below there. But it is a huge, huge, huge market, and it's also a market that they, historically haven't really done very well or really been super involved in. But I think what makes this generation and right now different for the Xbox brand is the diversity that they're offering consumers. If you want to buy hardware, buy the Xbox, and there's two versions of that, and there's a more affordable version of that as well. If you already have a smartphone, stream it, right? If you already have a PC, play the games, using, the Xbox app or whatever. But ultimately, them selling their console in that region is going to create a lot more public knowledge of the Xbox brand, and it's going to lead people to possibly choosing, the Xbox ecosystem above other ecosystems that they have prior used for their video gaming, right? So overall, I believe it is a very, very, very strong move. I think it's a competitive move, and I think that there's enough reason to kind of think that Xbox is going to definitely see better and more success in that in that market than in prior years. The same way that we are seeing more success than in previous years for Japan. I mean, it could always be better, but we are seeing better success in that market than in prior years. I think we'll see in China. And the real benefit is, Japan is the third largest market per revenue in the gaming industry annually. The US is #1. They already have a pretty good standing in America, but China, I'm sorry, the US is #2, but China is #1, and there's a lot of money that can be made in that country. So I think overall it's a great move. It's a smart move, and I think that there's enough reason to think that things will be different, and that Xbox is going to be a lot more competitive in that market than in previous generations.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I appreciate you bringing in the numbers, because you know what? We can have opinions, but numbers don't lie, right? And I think Microsoft is understandably interested in that region as well as Japan. I think the moves that we've seen Phil Spencer make over the course of the last 24 months of his trips to Japan and, of course, China and places like Korea is because he understands that there is an untapped market, and that that Xbox has the potential to see a great success for that particular point. And great way to bring up the point.
Well, just to add in, I said diversity before, but I think accessibility might even be the better way of putting it.
Yes, I'm 100%.
Is that it is just so much more accessible to play Xbox.
It's not just one box, one controller, and one way to play. Yeah.
For sure. And so, the separation of income really isn't the biggest, most powerful, motive, separator in whether or not you're going to be involved in Xbox, right? We do know that, there's a lot of people in China that probably don't make as much money, and probably not as much money as what they deserve to be making, right? And, the services that Xbox offers, kind of combats that, right? So the accessibility of, if you want to buy your play on console, PC, smartphone, stream it, however you want to play it, Xbox has your back. And I think that is super, super strong for Xbox to leverage.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that. That's a great point. Pong, let's get your opinion on this. China in the past has not been a region where Microsoft has made any ground. They're well aware of this. The fact that we have almost confirmation that they're launching into that region of the world tells me that whatever they did to get there was all due to Phil Spencer's hard work. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He does a lot of handshaking. A lot of people don't give him credit for, and he wants to see the Xbox brand everywhere. And I know that he got a lot of shit for saying, "Well, we want to try and get the 3 million gamers, 3 billion gamers." Now, of course, you're not going to get everybody. I mean, that's the reality. But man, if they could get into China and they offer with what they're offering, and more importantly, Pong, how they're offering it. Exactly what Zemi said. If you want to buy the box, here it is. And there are those extremists, like there are here, like us, who are the diehards that want the hardware. They're going to go out and buy it. But you're going to get the casuals that are used to playing on tablets, on phones, and on computers. And they're going to be like, well, wait a second. I can have just as much fun as my roommate who's gaming on the Series S or the Series X, but I can play on my laptop. And for $15 a month, I have currently nearly 400 games available. And they're not cannon fodder games. I mean, a perfect example is Outriders launches on the 1st, and that is not going to be the last time we see a big third-party game on there and launch on there. How do you think? Well, more importantly, Pong, how important is this move for Microsoft?
Well, it's really important, right? Boom. It's expanding their reach to a portion of the world, like Zemi pointed out, with some great stats that is huge. I mean, it's huge just in terms of dollars. It's huge in terms of the numbers of people. And we know that Microsoft is now moving to an engagement analytics, right? That's the new metric that everybody is using, or most are starting to use, because when you're talking about Game Pass as a platform, that's what's important. And that's been talked about plenty. So when you're talking about access to as many people that do game as there is in China, that's a huge piece of that pie. And it's the obvious move that they have to make. There's a couple different things that, Zemi hit on too, as far as the accessibility goes. I think when you are launching consoles now, how long before we get the generic XYZ box from China, right? Which always happens, and that's a problem, and that's a huge problem. And I know a lot of people have, and myself included, some personal feelings about doing business with China, because no matter what, when you enter that market, you're dealing with the government directly. Even if it's through companies, they have their hands in everything, and that's obviously something Microsoft has considered when doing this move. But I think that the accessibility part that Zemi brought up is huge, because the console may not be the biggest thing, but you bring the name to another level, right? And Xbox doesn't have the biggest visibility over there. Due to it being an American company. That's always the hardest part. And we've seen that with Japan and other parts of those markets over to the East. So getting that into China is just going to build upon, I think, what's going to be their main draw, which is the mobile and tablet and TV market and that kind of stuff. Once they get the apps on there, because I think that's how most people in China consume the content. So having the console available is a big deal. I think being first into that market with the console is also a big deal. Then we can look at it not just from a consumer standpoint, but let's look at it from the untapped developer market over there, right? Getting Xbox to grow in those regions, and let's talk about Asia as a whole, is hugely important. We've seen now with some of these games that are planning on coming out that we've had an opportunity to take a look at, that there are some talented developers that are starting to form over there. Not just Japan anymore. We're talking about Korea.
I mean, look at that game Wukong.
Yep, Black Myth Wukong.
Wow.
Yep, exactly. And Bright Memory Infinite is also Chinese. So we are seeing this developer talent now starting to appear and come up out of nowhere, and you want to hop in that. You don't want to wait until some of the best developers have already decided that they're only going to develop for PlayStation, or PlayStation has gobbled them up, or whatever the case may be, or Nintendo. You want Xbox to be known to these developers. You want them to realize that Xbox does have a place, not just in the West, but also in the East, so that they get interested in working with Xbox and making games for that console. And I think that goes, this is going to go a long way to doing that. And so for me, again, personal feelings aside, dealing with China directly, it's a good thing for Xbox to be there from a business standpoint, because it opens up a whole brand. And again, they've already talked about it, right? Phil's talked about it many times. They're not looking at the games market anymore as just the console market, which has kind of flatlined over the past decade or so. There's only so many people that are going to buy consoles. And this will open that up a little bit more. But the big thing is going after the 3 billion total people that do game, whether it's on mobile, whether it's on console, whether it's on PC. They want as big a piece of that entire pie as they can possibly get. So moving into these areas that generally have not been, or markets that generally have not been reachable is vital to reaching that goal. And again, people hear 3 billion, oh yeah, right, whatever. Well, again, when you set those type of internal goals as a company like Microsoft is doing, then you got to go for the whole pie, because if you wind up with 3/4 of that pie, or you wind up with 50% of that pie, you're already way ahead of your competitors when you're thinking that big. And so this is a huge deal. I'm glad they're doing it. From the standpoint of Xbox growing as a global brand. So it's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, and you know what? All it's going to do is a couple of things. One, it's going to have a source of income that would not have been there if they wouldn't have tried. The other thing that's interesting is looking at the Series S, which I think is probably going to be the console that moves the most. And I think that once that's available here in the States, where you could walk into a Walmart or a Target or a Best Buy and it's sitting there on the shelf, it is going to become one of those consoles that no one thought could be as popular as something like the Switch. And I know that people are going to be, just a second, boom, the Switch is the best selling, this, that, and the third. Yes, I understand that. It's portable. It's Nintendo. I bought 2 of them this generation. I love my Switch. I have over 70 games, folks. I understand that. But Nintendo is always still going to be Nintendo, and they're gonna make us buy their games, and like knuckleheads we will. And their sense of offering value to the customers. Hey, we remastered this game, give me $60. And why we continue to do that? Well, shit, I don't know, but I will always continue to do that because I love Nintendo. They are the Walt Disney of gaming. That's my opinion. But the Series S in China has a shot on becoming the most popular hardware. And I understand that they do game mobily more than anything, but because of the size of it, because it could literally fit on your bookshelf and not even be noticed, it's going to appeal to a lot of Chinese gamers. Whereas good luck trying to sell them a PS5. That thing is ridiculous. Dude, you need an actual... I needed to go out and buy a new piece of furniture to fit it, folks.
And let me add this too, boom, real quick to my points. The Chinese market is much more accepting of Western style games. Before they banned it, PUBG was absolutely huge in China. And so again, Xbox moving in there makes sense from that standpoint too, because there's other parts of the world that don't take well to Western style. And that's why we see, obviously Phil investing so heavily in trying to get a broader diversity of games from, especially Japan and Korea. But PUBG was huge in China.
It was ridiculous.
It was, their players played twice as many hours as any other part of the world. So you can see that the appeal is there for Xbox, because a lot of the games that they already currently have and are making may hit it big over there and really push them to the forefront.
Yeah.
Also, thinking in the future here, and this may be completely misled assumptions by me, but whenever we're talking about the rise of Xbox and its future competitors, a lot of the times, we don't really think so much of PlayStation and Nintendo as much as we kind of think of those other big companies like Tencent and like Amazon. And in a way, this is also, I guess, could possibly be looked at for like a future strategic move to better compete in China against Tencent, right?
Yeah.
Rather than allow them to have that entire, the largest market per revenue all by themselves to do with that, whatever they may wish to do in the future. Actually have some footholding in that region to better compete with that company as
Correct. Yep. Absolutely. You can't just give up. I mean, you can't just give
Yeah.
up that big of a market and say, throw your hands up and be like, oh, well, I mean, again, that's why Phil's continued to try to move into Japan, even though people say it's not worth it. It's still a piece of the pie.
It's
Oh,
worth
yeah,
it.
no, yeah, 100%.
Even a 28% or a 20% market share in Japan, as such a big market as it is, and how large the revenue is, even 20% of that is worth any company jumping in there.
Yep, absolutely.
Real quick, just before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to add something to the conversation I think is relevant. Zemi, you talked about what Microsoft is offering, right? You said that outside of being able to play on a box, they're giving you the choice to play on your pewter, your tablet, or your phone. Mm-hmm. This is something that Sony does not offer. Okay, and if they offer it, and if they are going to offer it, they're going to be, right now getting into China. Everything is ready to go for Microsoft. xCloud is up and ready to go, whereas not so much for Sony. So Phil knows this. Microsoft knows this, and this is why they're pushing ahead, because they're going to be able to offer those gamers something that Sony cannot. So,
well, not only Sony, anyone.
Yeah, well, even Nintendo.
No one is offering what Xbox is able to offer, and that's the really interesting thing, is that Xbox is able to capitalize on all segments of the gaming, industry: PC, mobile, console, everything across the board, right? And that's the really interesting thing. And you're right. They like the logistics are, I guess, a little bit more simpler of getting Xbox over there if they were just doing like the streaming stuff. I mean, of course, I would imagine they would still have to open up more server locations in that area, but no, it gives them a lot more, diversity and flexibility to market their games and their products in that region for sure. And that's a huge advantage for the current business model that we see Microsoft doing. And that's a big reason why we're all sitting here just super excited to be Xbox fans, because we see what they're doing, and we see the power and the strength and the capability of how they're currently doing their business.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, folks, this is a great way to open up and welcome in the 300 plus people we have here. If you're new, I want to say welcome with open arms. This is Double Barrel Gaming, and we do this nearly 5 times a week, live content. And of course, if you are already subscribed, consider hitting the like button. It definitely helps me navigate these waters, these YouTube streets, if you will, and their ridiculous algorithm that either sometimes loves me and other times hates me. So help a brother out and hit the like button. But I do want to move on to, of course, topic number 2, which I think is this is a fun one. This is a fun one for me because it involves triumph of a company. And let's get right into it. When openly discussing Rare Ltd's Sea of Thieves, depending on who you ask, you're probably going to get some big smiles, or in some instances, get some eye rolls. But because I've said this numerous times, either one is not wrong, and that is very simply, not every game is for every gamer. Now, recently, the BAFTA Awards just had their yearly annual event. And lo and behold, Sea of Thieves won a BAFTA, which is pretty damn interesting and, of course, impressive for the team. And they won it for Best Ongoing Xbox Exclusive. Now, this may not mean a lot for a lot of people, and you probably may not even hear this on any other person's podcast, but that's why you tune in to Double Barrel Gaming, because we give you the news along with the big, AAA news bombs that you're going to find pretty much everywhere that you may or may not find interesting. But you know what? Just for some back history of what exactly the BAFTA Awards are. This is an academy that was formed in 1947 by a group of British film producers, and it aimed to develop and celebrate film, television, and games. And the Academy is an independent charity, and in the early 1970s, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh made the decision to gift royalties to the organization. Now, why this is important for Rare and why I wanted to talk about this is the BAFTAs, for many people, are considered to be as important as the Oscars. And when you can say your game won a BAFTA, it's impressive and it's important. It's important for that team that has, since its inception, of course, CFDs I'm talking about, has done their due diligence to expand this game in ways that I never thought it would be able to achieve. Now, granted, I'll be the first one to say I don't play Sea of Thieves. It's not my type of game because there's no real single player content. And it's not that I'm antisocial. It's just that I don't have enough time in the day to run 4 live shows, actually enjoy gaming, and make time for my family, which is the most important thing. So a game like Sea of Thieves, if it had dedicated single player content where I can just sit down and in bursts of 20 and 30 and 40 minutes, get some game time in, hit a save point, shut it off, continue with my life and come back, I would play that game because I think it's an incredible achievement for Rare. But here's what Aaron Greenberg, who is notorious for, of course, getting out there and promoting and celebrating Xbox, he had this to say. Huge congratulations to the entire team at Rare Ltd on winning the BAFTA for Best Evolving Game. What an amazing 3-year journey, and the 20 plus million players who have joined along the way. Hashtag BAFTA Games. So I'm going to start with Pong. Pong, my question to you very simply is, many in the gaming industry would have given up on Sea of Thieves in its initial launch, its first year in the water, so to speak. Pun definitely intended. But Microsoft kept allowing Rare to expand and do better and bring in more players. When you can say you have 20 plus million of anything, I'd like to say that is an achievement in itself, but there's been 20 million players and the game is still growing. How big of a deal is a BAFTA award for not only Rare, but Microsoft's first party?
Yeah, shout out to Rare and that team for continuing to push obviously what was a beloved concept and game that they came up with, and continue to fight to have this game succeed. These kind of success stories are just one of the many reasons why I love this industry. And it goes to show what happens when a team believes in a project, and you have a company now, and again, I say now, in Xbox, in Microsoft, that believes in something like this and what it can lead to. And I think we forget, but sometimes we forget that a lot of games have tried, a similar concept, but have failed miserably. It's a very hard concept, these games of a service, obviously, and not everyone makes it. And to see that Microsoft, I said now, because the Microsoft of old, I don't know if they would have allowed the team to continue to build.
They would have killed this game.
Correct. And so to see that, I think it's going to have a ripple effect, and it probably already has had a ripple effect within Xbox itself. To see something like this happen lends credence to allowing teams to continue to build on their vision. If it's a solid vision, if what's there, the base is rooted in something that can be successful, but initially it doesn't work out, allow them to continue to expand upon that and see what happens. And that's what they did. And they got to a point where they started to see a steady growth. And at that point, I think some of the naysayers maybe within Xbox or Microsoft started to believe. Yeah. And now what you're going to see is more teams, and I think we've already seen kind of all these teams that now have come underneath the Xbox umbrella have all talked about when they're interviewed how Xbox is allowing them and allowing them to see their creations come to fruition and giving them the resources necessary and the time necessary to make these things happen. And so when you see a team like Rare, which obviously well known, historically well known throughout the gaming industry, but have had some missteps or some games that haven't hit, and there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, Rare's kind of finished. Rare's not what they used to be." To see this happen and take shape over this amount of time gives hope to a lot of other teams. And like I said, the Microsoft and Xbox themselves now can see what it is, what they can achieve when these teams are allowed to do this. And so I think this is a huge win. To add this award to the game, like you said, Boom, is a huge deal. Whether we realize it or not, through it is well respected. BAFTA is well respected, and that this just is the cherry on top of this team's hard work over at Rare. And I believe, again, that the ripple effects going forward are, we may see some other games come out, not hit right away, but Xbox taking a step back and saying, no, you guys go ahead, you guys keep doing what you're doing, we believe in this project, so let's see where we can go. And Grounded is one of those games I think that benefited as well from the success of Sea of Thieves. A smaller team, from Obsidian, allowed to go and make a passion project that Xbox may have not expected the world from, but that they continue to expand upon that, and it's got a fanatical following now of people who love Grounded and more people discovering it. And you know what? In a year or two, who knows? We may be talking about Grounded hitting 20 million people playing, and it would be another huge success story for Xbox. And even if it doesn't, what that team has already done is already a testament to, I think, the feeling and the ideas that Microsoft and Xbox now have about these types of games. And it's just going to only add to the diversity of games that we have available to us in Game Pass. And I hope to see more teams try things like this on the back of the success of Sea of Thieves. And maybe we'll get some gems that we may never had without this happening. So kudos to Rare, kudos to Xbox for allowing this team to continue to work on this game. And now they've been rewarded with this BAFTA, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I think you're onto something when you say it's a testament to the dedication that team has to the product that they put out there. I think it's super important, absolutely relevant that we talk about it. And again, I don't know how many shows are going to talk about this. You're definitely going to get Major Nelson to talk about on his podcast, and obviously, why not? Because he works for Xbox. I don't know how many of my peers find it interesting. I'm sure there's someone like a Cognito and Iron Lords would be like, yeah, this is a big deal, because they understand the grind that comes with doing anything, whether it be making games or making podcasts. But for me, I wanted to talk about it because I think that it's something that needs to be celebrated on a game that most people gave up on. And again, my views being that it's not the type of game that I'm interested in. At least I've given it a try. It's just, again, it's more multiplayer than I would like. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine with that. Zemi, let's get your opinion on this. When you say the word BAFTA, and again, most people didn't even know what the hell it is. Looking it up and cross-referencing the information that I pulled, it's considered to be a big deal, almost as big, potentially as shoulder to shoulder big as winning an Oscar. And this team at Rare has been working really hard for the last 3 years to keep people interested in Sea of Thieves, and they've done a really good job. This is a great way to celebrate that team. What are your thoughts on the big win for them?
But is it as big as the VGAs? I mean, come on, right?
You know what? I don't think anything as big as the VGAs, to be honest.
No, I think that this is a good story. I think that it's well deserved by the Rare developers. Whenever Sea of Thieves came out, it was a disaster. And it was a game that, costed $60. Yes, it was in Game Pass, but it also cost $60 that a lot of people bought for $60. And it just did not have enough content to really warrant that price. And it did not have a whole lot to do in the game as well. And, throughout the years, they've really revamped that game. They've, improved it a lot. They've published it on, other platforms that seem to absolutely love it. For instance, I think Steam, right? And they've put a lot of hard work in it. So, to say that it's not deserved would be crazy. It completely is deserved, and huge congratulations to the developers over there at Rare. But whenever we do see these types of things, I think it's also important for we as gamers, should we label ourselves as media, gaming?
Yeah,
media?
I'd like to consider ourselves. No, all jokes aside, yeah.
To also recognize what the true story behind this and how Rare kind of got into the situation of having to evolve their game in the first place. And one thing that does concern me, and I think I've talked to you, Boom, about this, privately, is, the willingness to forgive. I think that that's amazing, but at the same time, it's also dangerous in the gaming industry because, we see all too often a lot of these games come out and they're just not worth the $60. They're not completed products, right? And I think that was one of the biggest drives for Rare to improve this product was that it just wasn't complete. Right. And so while celebrating this great achievement, and it is a great achievement, I think it's also important to recognize why exactly or how exactly Rare got in this situation and to remember that, when this game did come out, it wasn't completed because I think it's, I think it can become a dangerous thing that, very quickly the expectation of games are you just get something whenever it comes out. Whereas, the historical expectations of games were that you got a completed, product. And more, year after year, we see a lot of games come out and they're not completed products. So while celebrating this, I think we also should still realize what kind of put Rare in this position in the first place and not forget about that as well. But overall, I think that this is tremendous work, and yeah, I'm not the hugest Sea of Thieves fan, but I can acknowledge great work whenever I see it, and they have done great work since the launch of this game initially, and they completely deserve that award for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I agree. I mean, again, I understand your point of forgiveness versus where they are now. Nobody wants games to launch broken. I mean, obviously, we've seen that happen more times with some of the bigger AAA games than not. It's an unfortunate. It is an unfortunate. Is it a trend? I don't know. I don't think anybody goes out of their way to say, "Hey, let's release a broken game." But I will say that where they were and where they are now are just incredible. It's just an incredible story because obviously, with anything in life, you can be you can get disinvolved, if you will, with negativity. Right, like if negative views come into whatever you're doing, you get disgusted, right? You get dejected, and you may not want to continue doing it. And let's call a spade here, folks. The Sea of Thieves team got beaten up, and some people may say, well, it's for good reason. Boom, they released a broken game, but is it really okay to be an asshole? I would say no. I'm going to be honest with you, bad game or not.
I think criticism is fine. Harassment is not. Right?
100%. Yes.
There's a difference between criticizing a creator if you didn't like their work, or criticizing a company if you didn't like their product. And there's, between sending a death threat or threatening a developer, right? There's a huge difference in that. Criticism is perfectly okay. But some of these, just absolutely just nasty things that we have, delinquents posting on the internet is not okay. None of these developers should ever, be attacked in the way that some of them are.
Yeah, no, well, absolutely 100%. I mean, listen, this is, again, not the biggest topic of the day. We're going to roll into one of the big ones next, but I wanted to make sure that we did talk about this. I thought it was ultra important for that team to be recognized. And again, this is a small program, but I still thought I found that it was super important in my opinion. I do want to catch up on some of the generosity that this community continues to show me. First of all, Raiden Blade joined as a new member. Thank you so much for doing that, dude. Super appreciate the generosity. DeAndre Banks drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, I still think Xbox overall did have a misstep aside, or overall misstep aside, will be okay. Yeah, no, we're not saying that they're in trouble. We're saying what I said. Again, what I said last night is they had the entire industry on the ropes, and I mean that with the best case scenario possible. It has been all good news for weeks upon weeks with Microsoft, and this misstep allowing Twitch to handle their brand was a mistake. It was a rope-a-dope, and they were put into the corner and they were beat down. And I hope that they learn from this. And the truth of the matter is they should never allow something as important to Xbox as a brand in regards to ID at Xbox to be handled by anyone but Xbox. That was a horrible mistake. I don't know who was responsible for it, but I can guarantee you that they're sitting somewhere in a boardroom right now talking about, man, what are the podcasts and what are the gamers talking about? And did we do a disservice to the indies that put their games on our stage? Yes, they did. That's the end of the story, because we didn't complain about the games. I loved almost all of the games I saw, even if they weren't for me. But we weren't talking about the games, and that's the problem. But I don't want to continue down that dark path. We're going to keep moving forward. Raiden Blade drops 2 more super chats for $2 each. Thank you for your generosity, Raiden. The first one says, hit the like button, people. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for that. And the second one says, Zemi, remember this. It was a community game first. And I still think it is actually more so a community game than anything. But again, it's not for me, and that's perfectly cool. Again, not every game is for every gamer. But I want to talk about Starfield for a second here, folks. Now, I did get a little pushback by the thumbnail with some people on Twitter. And they said, wait just a second, Boom. How could Starfield be delayed if it wasn't officially announced? And they are correct in saying such a thing. But here's the problem. We have heard from people like Jeff Grubb, who I am currently in negotiations with, if you will, to have him guest appear on an upcoming episode of Primetime Gaming. Hopefully I'd be able to make that announcement soon. We're just trying to iron out. His schedule's been very busy. But we've heard people that I consider to be industry insiders that I personally trust, that I will run a story on my channel because I trust them. That Starfield had what he said is that he was 90% sure that it was going to be shown at E3, and I believe that still. He never said anything about it releasing this year, but there's been other insiders that have talked about the potential of Todd Howard doing what Todd Howard does. He shows a game at E3 and he tells you it's going to be out in October, and everyone gets excited. But while responding to someone at GameStop who works there, by the way, and has now deleted their original tweet, this is what industry insider Klobrille had to say on the difficulty of development during COVID concerning Bethesda's Starfield. He says this, folks, I wouldn't call it likely, but rather maybe. But given the ongoing COVID circumstances, it's healthy not to expect Starfield this year. Okay, so here's the thing. My original thought process for Microsoft's first party dominance this year versus the uncertainty of both Nintendo and PlayStation was that in September, we were going to get Forza Horizon 5. In October, we were going to get Starfield. And in November, we were going to get the confirmed Halo Infinite. And that would have been a triple combo in a way that Microsoft has not had in a very, very long time. And I would dare say that they would win the fall both in console sales and in games that not only were relevant, but high scoring games, simply because you could almost guarantee that you're going to get a 90 meta on Horizon 5. It's safe to assume, and again, maybe I'm making an ass out of myself, and I'll be forthcoming and say that I did in the future if I'm proven wrong, that you could get a 90 meta for a Starfield. And I'm going to go out. I don't think I'm going out on a ledge here. It's because I'm a fan. So, sometimes you die by the fandom sword. I would like to believe Halo Infinite is going to be a 90 meta game. So if you could potentially put 3 Xbox exclusives in the 90 meta conversation in a row, September, October, November, the biggest game sale months of any given 1 year, you would have an incredible story. And sure, is it storybook-like? Absolutely. But is there a chance that that may fall apart? It's certainly possible, because guess what, folks? COVID is still a real problem. Zemi, I want to go to you first on this. When you hear Klobrille, who we all trust and we all respect, come out and say, well, it's for him, it's more unlikely that we're going to see it. Do you have some concerns that your Lord and Savior, Todd Howard, is not going to deliver Starfield in 2021?
Praise be his name. You forgot that. Praise be his name. Todd Howard, our savior, the man with the locks of gold. I love that man. Anyway, whenever you see all of these games get delayed, I mean, you can't stop but to think, right? Like, okay, it might get delayed, right? Which, in all fairness, we don't even know if it's going to come out this year. Like, we're speculating. We think that it will. I truly believe that it will. But it may not have even been set to release this year, or it might have, and it might have gotten delayed like all of these other games. We just don't really know. I don't think it is necessarily a safe thing to say 100% it's coming or 100% it got delayed. I'm not going to bet my life on either of those two outcomes, because we just don't know. But with that being said, we have seen a lot of games get delayed. One that really hurt my heart.
I know I know what you're going to say. Say it.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Let's
Hogwarts Legacy.
Dude, it killed me. It killed me. But at the same time, I'm also a believer that if a studio needs more time to release the product that we all as gamers want, then give them the time to delay it. And, I absolutely want to play Hogwarts Legacy just as much, if not more, than I want to play Starfield. I love Bethesda. But at the same time, I want to play the best version of that game, the best that game can be. And I want to play the true vision of those developers, had for that game. And if that takes another year to polish or to, develop or whatever, then it takes another year. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I can get over a delay. I have a lot harder of a time getting over just a bad game, just a bad product that should have been delayed. But, this is completely in speculation town. I don't know. It may come, it may not. I think, all of those sources that you were just talking about, they're just speculating, because we really have no idea, what's going on.
Until we actually hear from Xbox and Bethesda, it really is a conversation that is packed with assumptions.
No, absolutely it is. It's still fun to talk about because, it's Bethesda and it's, a new IP. They haven't really released a new IP since, or I guess worked on like a new IP since Fallout 3. right?
It's been a while, dude.
It's
Yeah.
been a long time, and so there's a lot to be excited about. I think it is a game that a lot of gamers are super hyped for. I would love it to come out this year. It may not. And there's just, I mean, there's a lot of reason to think that it won't. COVID has been really hard on a lot of these, game developers. More, some more than others, but all around, it's not been the greatest time to develop a game. So it may get delayed, and if it does, that's okay. I will patiently be waiting in my corner, crying, holding on to my Todd Howard photo. But I'll get over it, and I think it's going to be the best thing to happen to the game. Delays are a good thing overall. They really are.
You know what? I mean, listen, at this point, Microsoft has so many games in the pipeline, most that we know, a lot that we don't. Would Starfield, if the game is going to fare better because of a delay, then it's worth the delay, right? Sure. I mean, they still have at least 2 big bombs coming in the form of Halo Infinite, and we're almost positive that we're going to get one form or another of a new Forza, whether it's Motorsport, whether it's Horizon 5, we don't know.
There's plenty of first party games that Xbox has that are probably going to release this year, and even without that, third party is looking incredible either way, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, you know what? Let's bring Pong Soul into the conversation. Pong, listen, when you consider already what has been delayed, and I got a list here, and it's an arm's length that has been delayed, not just delayed, but I mean actually delayed until next year. You have Back from Blood is coming out this year. It's October. That was a slight delay. But some of the big games that got banished into 2022 are Gotham Knights, Destiny 2: The Witch Queen DLC, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, The Lord of the Rings Gollum, and probably and potentially soon to be announced a shit ton more. What are your thoughts on Klobrille kind of spelling it out that it's unlikely we get Starfield? Could he be wrong?
Oh, absolutely. I refuse to lose faith in God Howard and his team. So
yeah, you like that?
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt. Praise be his name. You always have to say that.
Exactly. Thank you, Zemi. Yeah. So no, I will be one of the people dying on this hill that it's coming out this year. Because now again, if Todd does believe that it needs to be delayed for whatever reason, so be it. Again, I'm like everybody else. I have, plenty of games. I want to see it. It's my most anticipated game that we have coming, and I cannot wait. But at the same time, I want developers to release games when they know they're ready. So I'm in that camp firmly. And as much as I would love to selfishly say just release it and fix it later, that's not what I'm about. So if he believes and his team believes that it'd be better to release early 2022, that's fine. I'm okay with it. I'll be heartbroken, but my faith will never waver. However, I still think that there is a reason why just a couple months ago, after the Bethesda announcement, and anytime an interview came up, Microsoft executives, not just Phil, but
speak on it. I know exactly where you're going with this.
Almost every single Microsoft executive that was interviewed about the Bethesda deal brought up the name Starfield.
Yeah.
And I believe there's a reason for that. I think that's one of the golden eggs they have this year that they are planning on having for holiday 2021. And I don't think they would have done that unless they had supreme confidence. And obviously we know how close Phil and Todd and that whole team are prior to the acquisition, that I believe that they were very confident from what Todd was saying. Now, could have something happened? Absolutely. Could they have found some kind of, catastrophic bug or multiple bugs that are going to take a while to correct in the coding? Of course, that definitely could happen. But I cannot bring myself to believe that they would not, that they would speak on that name over and over and over again, unless they were sure that it was going to be ready this year and that they are planning on an E3 announcement, big, Fallout announcement style that, hey, Todd's going to walk up on that stage and say, I want you all to see my new baby. And here she is. And by the way, we're going to launch it Xbox exclusive day and date and Game Pass, whether it's October, November, December, whatever the case may be. I think they are ready to do that. And I'm going to stay on that hill until they say otherwise, because again, the information that we got, all the evidence that we got leading up to this point states that it was ready. There was also talk, there was also that rumor out there that, just up until a couple months ago, they were planning on a 2021 release. So, and again, unless something catastrophic has happened again with this crazy pandemic and everybody working from home, who knows? Maybe that's the case. But I think it is one of their golden eggs that they're going to have for holiday 2021. I think Microsoft wants to knock it out of the park with 3 home runs with Forza Horizon 5, with Halo, and with Starfield. And I think they want to have that 3 big lineup going into holiday 2021 and just crush everybody's expectations and walk into 2022 as the talk of the town. If they're not already, if they pull that off, they will be the talk of the industry. And I think that's what they want leading into 2022.
I kind of want to, I didn't have this added, but because of some of the things that both you gentlemen had to say, I want to kind of elaborate on this for a second, because as we know, Xbox Game Pass is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle for Xbox, and that's not just in this country. It's a worldwide reach. They want to be like the shredder's hand. They want to be able to reach over the world and shadow everybody, right? If you could, and again, folks, this is just complete speculation. This is just my opinion. If you could somehow put together a triple-headed monster like a Forza Horizon 5, a Starfield new IP, and Halo Infinite onto your Xbox Game Pass day and date publication, the amount of consoles you're going to move just on those 3 games. We're not even talking about everything else that's already there and that's coming, but these 3 first-party monsters, it would be, again, this would be an experience that Microsoft saw that was plentiful during the Xbox 360, not so much with the Xbox One, especially back-to-back wins. And again, my September, October, November, I didn't get that from anyone. Phil didn't give me a call, at least not yet, and tell me that that's what they were looking to do. But if they really wanted to, shake the ground of the industry, and pull off a move as monumental as that, they would logistically be in the media is front pan of their brain for just about everything, and more so than just the media. We're talking about the consumer.
Exactly.
If you could put together those 3 new games, AAA budget, AAA, graphics and engines and everything, all the bells and whistles that make it a AAA game, and you can turn around and say, on a billboard or on your front, popping up on your TV or being an ad while you watch YouTube, these 3 games, Xbox Game Pass, day and date, $14.99 a month. You're going to shake up the industry even more than they have. Pong, I want to go right back to you on this. How big of a deal would this be for Microsoft to have a 3-headed monster like this?
Oh, I mean, again, incredible to have that kind of lineup with 3 diverse games from different genres, from some of the biggest names in the industry, to line those up after what, obviously we hear about constantly, the drought from Microsoft as far as Xbox from AAA standpoint, right? Everybody brings that up all the time. To line these 3 up, and I talked about this plenty of times, when they delayed Halo last year and they lost that golden egg, and it was a big one. However, in a way, it wasn't as big a deal as everybody made it out to be, or we all thought it would be, just because the consoles are so limited with the production problems that they've had. They flipped that calendar. I believe in my heart, they flipped that calendar to 2022, and Phil came out and said, or 2021, excuse me, and Phil said it, that holiday 2021 was the key date for him and his entire team moving forward, that was going to be the mark that they had to hit. And so to line up these three, and I think when he talked about that, he knew in the back of his head that potentially they could have these three games lined up. And again, we still have not heard about, we've seen a lot of smoke from Forza Horizon 5, but we still have not, really any confirmation. But obviously, most of us believe where there's smoke, there's fire. So I think in the back of his head, he knew that holiday 2021 consoles were going to be available. They were going to have their marketing and hype back in full swing for this year, as if this is the real launch of, the series consoles.
Yeah.
Because of everything that happened out of their control, some within their control, but most of it out of their control with the pandemic, that they just said, look, we're going to have this launch. It's going to be good, but we're going to have limited consoles, but we know our hardcore are going to show up. We got a lot of hype from the Bethesda acquisition announcement going in. We're going to be fine. We're going to stay, fairly neck and neck with PlayStation. PlayStation has their own problems, but holiday 2021 is when the battle starts, right? That's when we start to grab that mind share from the masses. And I think that's what this plan was. So having these three lined up is huge. And again, everything, anything can happen. Not all the dominoes have fallen, but they got the big one with the ZeniMax deal going through. And now we've seen the hype train going, despite all the complaints about ID at Xbox Showcase, what was shown there, and with 20 plus games coming to Game Pass. I mean, again, that's just the indie side, and we still have third-party publishing deals. We still got the worldwide studio stuff. We still got E3 coming up. They are just going to get this train, this hype train, moving at full speed right into holiday, and then hit you with potentially Forza Horizon 5, Starfield, Halo. I mean, you are talking about a wrecking ball, like you were saying, Boom, when it comes to just everybody in the industry and outside of the industry, the masses talking about Xbox. When they go in during holiday 2021 and the consoles are on the shelves, and you're walking in, the kids are telling their parents what they want for Christmas. You've got those three AAA bangers sitting there on top of everything else that's coming this year, and then in the future, but just mainly this year. You're talking about domination on all sides, and I cannot wait to see it happen. And that's why I still will die on this hill. I think it's coming.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually don't disagree with you. I actually do think it's coming, to be honest with you. Zemi, I want you to move on to the next topic. Please elaborate on this. Again, this is just complete speculation. Mm-hmm. But if I worked for Microsoft, which of course I would in a second, as long as they can call the bullpen phone is always on. So they want to call up the kid who's really old. I'll be more than happy to relocate my family to Seattle to herald this position. Again, speculation aside, Microsoft, it's been a long time since we've had a significant amount of big bangers, if you will. And if they could put a 90-day romp, if you will, of these three games, and again, I didn't even bring that up, and that's good, good on you that you did, different genres. You're getting the first-person space shooter. It's going to be the other one's going to be but it's more like an RPG, an open-world RPG, and you have the driving sim, or the arcade racer sim. It's there's something here for everyone. Again, putting those three games on a billboard that say in Game Pass day and date $14.99. Granted that they don't raise the price, I think it would be big. But my question to you is just how big?
It would be. Huge. The only thing that I think would actually be any bigger than that would be an autographed photo of Todd Howard being sent to my mailbox.
I think they might include those in the special edition of Starfield Series X and Series S.
I would love it. but so I think what would do so well with this is Xbox has proven themselves on so many different levels since, the nightmare thing, scenario that we don't like to think of, but it happened in 2013 and it wasn't good for the brand, right?
Right.
They have proven themselves time and time and time over and over and over again. But one area that they have not 100% laid down the hammer with is first party capability, right? They've had good games. Gears is a great game, don't get me wrong, but they've also had some pretty bad ones as well. They haven't really showed their dominance and being able to really just release time after time after time first party banger the way that their competition, such as Sony and even Nintendo, has been able to show us, right? So having these 3 banger of a games come out in the same year, in the same holiday, within 3 months, I think would go a very, very long way in showing Xbox's dominance in being able to create or purchase, I guess, first party games that people resonate with and that are good games and that move consoles. And like what you were saying, I think that it would, so long as consoles are available to purchase at the time, really, really push a lot of people, even PlayStation users, to jump over and purchase an Xbox console. But what I think is even more important than that is that it's going to push people to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass who aren't already subscribed, which is really the lifeblood of Xbox and seems to be the future of the brand. Imagine being able to play not only Halo, not only Starfield, but also included in there is Forza, for $15 a month on the high side, $10 a month on the low side. I mean,
Right.
Value, right?
Right.
Like there's nothing more valuable than that. Sony cannot do that. Nintendo cannot do that. No other gaming platform is offering you this, but Xbox is, and they just released 3 amazing games in the span of 3 months during the second holiday season that their new console is out. That is hard to say no to. But for sure, it would be huge. And I hope that it happens because, it would be very beneficial to the Xbox brand. Once again, the only better thing than that, though, would be an autographed photo of Todd Howard.
I'm going to try and get that done for you because, Todd Howard, I know you're a big fan of him, and that would actually move everything off the shelf behind you to put there. And would it become an altar is what I want.
No, it would. Should I hide it in my closet or should I just let it out and just make sure that everybody knows? I'd be like,
make sure you get 2. Because
yes, no problem.
Me as well. So.
I'm actually gonna. Todd and I were gonna have drinks, and I was gonna, I was out on drink. It's gonna be Dr. Pepper for me, but Scotch on the rocks for him. I'll make sure that I bring the head selfie.
Yeah, I would just be happy if I could be the bartender. Can I be the bartender?
You know what? We'll set up the bar. Why not?
Okay. Thanks.
All right, folks. Well, listen. This has been a fun conversation. One that I hope that you enjoyed. Obviously, when you're laughing, you're obviously having fun. I do want to move on to the next topic, folks, and you know what? Let's talk about S.T.A.L.K.E.R.2 for a hot second. In my opinion, one of the biggest games coming out in 2021 is the Xbox exclusive by GSC Games World, and that, of course, is S.T.A.L.K.E.R.2. And it's obviously based on the recent developer update that we got during the unfortunate ID at Xbox last Friday. It's safe to say the dev team is making use of every inch of power in the Xbox Series X and S. Now, GSC chose to mainly show off the detail on the character models, which had outfits that showed off scuff marks, scratches, and actually sticking out threads that come with the wear and tear of working in the zone. Now, the video also showed off detail of the weapon sculpts, as well as some close-up looks at the teeth of some NPC characters, which are designed in a manner that allows the team at GSC to give every character a 1 in a one in a kind smile. I mean, just the fact that they even mentioned that is just hilarious. Here's the question that I have for the chat. First of all, and of course it's to the panel. How excited are you that Stalker 2 is not only making its first debut on console, but an Xbox console? And more importantly, what takeaways did you personally have from that in-depth video that the developer put out there for us to see the amount of detail that are going into that? And of course, I want to go right back to Pong Soul on this. Pong, this video. Okay, I know a lot of people walked away. They wanted gameplay, and I get it. I absolutely get it. But the developer had come out a week prior to the show and said, hey, folks, listen, it was thought that we were going to show gameplay. That is not, in fact, the case. They put a whole big disclaimer for everyone to see. They didn't want to have anyone's expectations to be turned into disappointment. We're just going to show you what we're working on in regards to the graphics and some of the techniques that we're using. And we will give you a gameplay update later on in 2021, which I would imagine will be in the next few months. Did you walk away impressed and satisfied with what they had to show?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Boom, why don't you grab Kirby Louise's because it's relevant.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Let me just catch up on some of the super chats that have come in, as a matter of fact. We have, hold on a sec. Let me just go back to, let me usually put some up here. Okay, so here we go. The Pixelbit G, good friend of the show, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, I highly doubt that ZeniMax only had DLC planned for the entirety of 2021. Really unlikely. If not Starfield, then something has to release this year. And I think you're correct. Raiden Blade drops a very generous $2 super chat and an additional one at that. Imagine Back for Blood day one on Game Pass. Yeah, you know what? I called that when this was announced, and I think that's going to be coming to Game Pass. I think you're on to something. Dream Eater, another generous friend of the show, he drops a $5 super chat and says, God Howard is the man. I think we should coin that and actually have t-shirts.
Praise be his name.
God
Amen.
Howard.
Amen.
I freaking love that. I think that Pong, patent that immediately and make t-shirts, please.
I should.
Kirby Louise, good, generous friend of the show, and actually a developer who I trust indubitably. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, insane level of detail in Stalker 2. It could very well be out first sampler feedback streaming and Xbox Velocity architecture enabled game. Holy shit, I didn't even know that. That's big. So Pong, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I just wanted to get Kirby's in there because it is relevant, because you're seeing what a team of experienced developers can do with the current architecture. And it's kind of funny how things work out. Just to give you a little background, this is from GSC Game World. That's the developers of this game. Now, they go all the way back. They're the original creators of Stalker. And they actually disbanded back in 2011. They broke up the studio, and they didn't think they didn't have the funding back then. And they were actually already making Stalker 2. And then they reformed in 2014 and announced Stalker 2 in 2018. So it's kind of crazy that, this game was supposed to come out years and years and years ago, but it's only because, the studio disbanding and then coming back together now that we're going to get this game on current technology, which actually, probably benefits the game and the developers even more, because we probably wouldn't even be seeing this game on consoles if it wasn't for them going away for a period of time.
And something to add to your point, that is thanks to the good folks at ID at Xbox who allow these smaller devs to breathe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important. It's crazy to see a game like Stalker 2 and call it an indie. but it really is, and it shows the power that's available to developers now. My history with Stalker, I have always been a console gamer. I only PC game when I was very, very young, way back in the day. We're talking Might and Magic 2 and Ultima 4. Okay. So we're talking about way back. But there was a couple of games that I made sure that I got to my buddy's house or houses to play. And Diablo 2 was one, which we're going to get a remaster this year.
Cannot wait for that.
Oh, cannot wait. And the other one was Stalker. I'm not Zemi scared of horror games, but I
no one is Zemi scared of horror games
right.
except for Zemi.
but you give me a game like Stalker or the Metro series from the other part of that team that kind of went and formed their own studio. You give me that type of game, you give me weapons, and you set me in a creepy atmosphere. I can do it and I love it, right? So that's the best part about this is what we're seeing is this team now take advantage of the hardware that's available to them nowadays. We are going to get this exclusive to Xbox, Game Pass day and date. And what we're seeing out of this team when they show off the incredible detail is something special. And again, to call it indie is crazy, but this is just a group of experienced developers that know what they're doing. They've been doing this for a very long time, extremely talented team. And the level of detail that they showed off at ID at Xbox was crazy. It is something like Kirby said, it might be the first game that's taking, advantage of everything that is in these new series consoles. And that's a huge win for the developers, but it's a huge win for us as gamers because this is now going to be available to everyone. And not every developer is going to go in producing these type of games, but this is the future that we're going to see, that these developers now have access to tools well beyond whatever anybody thought just some years ago. And we're going to see some teams come out with crazy AAA looking games from these smaller teams. And we're going to talk about a little bit later too, Boom, is the Ascent is another one of those games taking advantage of these tools given to them. But I am hyped for Stalker 2. Again, Stalker back in the day was one of those games that I made sure I played, even though I was not a PC guy, because the atmosphere is so incredible. It sucks you in. And what they showed off in the small bit that we got, that small little teaser that we got just a few months ago, wow, it gave me goosebumps just thinking about getting into that setting and experiencing what these guys have planned for us. And, for a team like this to go down to the detail of teeth or to scuff marks and all that kind of stuff just shows a passion for their original baby that they created in Stalker. And they want to make sure that Stalker 2 lives up to everything that they produced before and brings it to current technology standards. And to me, I love that. And I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. I cannot wait, Boom. It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be incredible, even more incredible that has been confirmed day one Xbox Game Pass. And that again, it's a big deal.
30 plus weapons too, with all kinds of attachments and everything. They also talked about that. And those weapons are just looking, talk about fitting the setting in every way, shape, and form and making sure the details are there to keep the player just completely in belief that they are in this world. Man, it's beautiful to see. I love it.
Yeah, it again, Xbox is doing some big things. I think that 2021 is going to be a year that we look back upon. And again, we're still in the first quarter of the year, right? I know it ends at the end, middle of the week, but you don't really expect a lot to happen. Especially in a pandemic in the first quarter of a year, though. I gotta be honest with you. The remainder of 2021, the last 3 quarters of this year, I think is going to put Xbox in a position that, again, has not seen in a very, very long time. And I think that it's going to not only be relevant to their first party wares coming out, but I think that their second and third party exclusives, especially during the indie scene, and we have a big indie one that we're going to be talking about after this, and we're talking about the Ascent. We saw some new footage of that, and my God, that's 14 people made that. It doesn't even seem possible. But let's continue with Stalker and Zemi. this I guess you can call it a dev doc, if you will,
Mhm.
really showed off the techniques that they're using. There's a lot to really look back at, and I've watched this video 3 times. One, preparing for the show, but as a fan, I want to see some of the techniques that they're using. The character models look sick. The fact that they care about their teeth. Wow. I mean, like, are you serious? But like all the gun attachments that Pongso were talking about, the 30 guns, folks. It's like they are really going out of their way to make this game as real as any game before it, and that is saying something. And right now, folks, it's an exclusive. Now, whether that changes next year or 2 years from now, I couldn't tell you, but it's an Xbox exclusive. And when I say Xbox exclusive, you can play on PC. So you know what I mean. I don't have to say, I'll put it this way. The best way to describe it is it's not coming to the PlayStation 5 or the Nintendo Switch. But Zemi, how impressed were or weren't you with this video doc that they released during the ID at Xbox show?
Man, let me tell you, I was so upset. I really was. I see. I'm a salty boy now because
Now I know why you're salty.
yeah, because I can't play it. That's why I'm salty, because I'm a coward. And it crushed me whenever I saw the medium. Man, that game looks so good, and now I'm getting crushed again. It's like, do any of these developers want to make a game that looks as good as S.T.A.L.K.E.R. that's coming out here relatively soon? That's not scary. I mean, please, Zimi would like to play that, whatever it may be. No, I thought the graphics looked absolutely incredible. Like the fine details of like the threads kind of just like poking out of clothing and like the teeth. Like the teeth were awesome, right? I mean, like I've never been more impressed by looking at nasty crooked teeth in all my life. No, but it really does. Like, it looks so good. And not even to mention like the teaser trailer with those environments, man, with like the shadows coming off of like the tree that's like blowing in the wind, and like the eerie vibes and all of the different stuff. I mean, it just looks really, really cool. It also looks scary, which I'm not a fan of, and so I won't be able to play the game. But I can see why everyone's excited. I'm excited for everybody else. I'm excited that you guys will be able to play this game because it looks insane. But one thing I think is really, really strong is Xbox's willingness for indie games, right? If Xbox didn't support indie games the way that they did, if they didn't have ID at Xbox, then quite possibly S.T.A.L.K.E.R. would not be coming to the Xbox, and it wouldn't have its exclusivity on the console. So as cool as the game looks, I mean, I think it's just awesome that we have ID at Xbox, and yeah, sure, we've gotten some there's been some questionable games published on there, but that's true with every platform, right? Steam, PlayStation, like there's questionable games being published everywhere, but there has been some really, really good games that were kind of really only made available because of ID at Xbox and the moves that Xbox has been making for the independent game developers. Yeah. But no, game looks amazing. I'm jealous. I wish I could play it, but I'm a coward. So, yep.
Raiden Blade drops another very generous $2 super chat and says, I believe Xbox are stockpiling their consoles. You know what? Listen, I said this before, and I said it on the show specifically. Yes. If I were to buy a console, it would be the X. I have both. I own both consoles because the S is in the room, and the X is out here where I mainly play. And I would suggest everyone have that, and most diehard gamers actually do. But I think when they can get the Series S stockpiled, and I'm also calling this right now. Again, I could be wrong. More than likely, I'm wrong because I don't work for Microsoft. But I think that come this fall, it would be pretty incredible and really, paint the industry into a corner if they were to release the Xbox Series S at a $50 price drop. I mean, is it possible? I don't know. I don't know how much it actually costs. Are they losing money? Probably. But if they could somehow drop that $50, and now you're talking that a difference between a PlayStation 5 digital is $150 and a physical is $250. And PlayStation is making you spend $70 on their first party games, where Xbox is basically giving away the farm for free for $15 a month. I think you're going to see a much different generation, and I think that this is one of those opportunities that could really paint Sony into a corner. I think they're going to have to pivot. I think they're they're going to have to make some moves to try and keep up with what's going on with Microsoft. I don't know if they can, but it's going to be interesting. And again, think about let's let's take a trip down, to Speculation Town. I love going there. A lot of nice people. If you could figure out again, if you could put together a 3-month 90 meta banger in a 3-headed monster in Forza, Halo, and Starfield, and then have a $250 console, a next gen console that plays all those games, it's effing game over, literally, for Sony. It really is. Now, is Sony going out of business, or taking their ball and going home? No, but it does paint them into a very, very difficult position. And some questions are going to have to be asked about how leadership is handling this, because right now they currently have their head in the sand, at least in my opinion, and I'm sure that most people would agree. But let's take a 5-second break here. Let's move on to the last topic of the show. Now, we're 90 minutes in, and we're going to go a little over, because it would behoove me not to talk about Neon Giants, The Ascent. And it received a new trailer during the ID at Xbox showcase, and quite frankly, it's looking explosively incredible as ever. Now, the neon-drenched cyberpunk future still promises heaps of violence, with up to 4 players joining the action. And not only is this an Xbox exclusive, but the announced 4-player co-op fits very nicely into the revamped Xbox network. Now, the story of the Ascent is the Ascent Group, which of course has the world spiraling into mayhem because they fell. Now, players, if you don't already know, must take up arms to protect their district, fighting off hostile gangs and other corporations while investigating the cause. Now, the gameplay is isometric perspective with an action RPG element that is very, very similar to what you get in, like, let's say, a Diablo 3, except obviously it's cyberpunk based. And what's crazy here is, according to the story that I pulled, there are no loading screens from when you're transitioning from one area to the next. So it's literally balls to the wall action from start of the pressing start on the button to the time that you drop dead from getting killed. Now, the Ascent unfortunately did not get a release date. I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't mad. I was slightly disappointed, because I was hoping, and I know it's a shot in the dark, that we would have got a stealth drop available in Xbox Game Pass right now, and I would have crapped my pants, no doubt about that. But here's the thing that's great. It's going to support 4K Ultra HD, 60 FPS along with smart delivery, and also obviously available in Xbox Game Pass when it officially launches. Zemi, I want to go to you first on this. You are one of our biggest Hogwarts fans for sure, but you're also a big cyberpunk fan, and Neon Giants, what I believe to be a mega hit in The Ascent, is right up your alley. It's multiplayer. There's a single player aspect to it. What are your thoughts on the new trailer? Could your hype level be any higher?
It is the game for me, besides one thing, and that's the asymmetric point of view. That is the one area that just, kind of just doesn't make me super interested in it. I for sure am going to download this game day one and give it a try. And I really, really hope that just the I guess, like the gameplay loop and the story and the characters and the environments and stuff like that really, really, like, it makes me get over it being asymmetric, because I am not the biggest fan of that point of view. But
could this game make you a fan?
It could. No, this game could very well make me a fan. Do I think it will? I don't know. But It could. I really like the futuristic cyberpunk theme to the game. I don't really know too much about the characters. I like the art direction. I like that it's coming into Game Pass and I won't have to pay for it, technically. I'm not sure about the asymmetric, and also, maybe playing the game with a bunch of friends will also help make me kind of forget about the point of view as much. But no, I think that the game looks good. 4-player co-op. I think that that's awesome, and I think it's also really, really important because one thing about Game Pass is it's great to have those single-player games in there, but those multiplayer games is what's going to keep people coming back every single month and keep paying that for that service, right? Because they want to keep playing Halo Infinite online with their friends. They want to keep playing the Ascent online with their friends, and so I think having the Ascent and Game Pass day and date is a huge benefit to the service. It's really honestly just a game that I'm going to have to really look at and play whenever it comes out, for me to really be able to like give my real impressions for the game. Because right now I like what I see. The only thing I don't like is the asymmetric point of view. That is literally the only thing I see that I do not like.
Okay, I mean, listen, again, not every game is for every gamer, but I think that at some point there's going to come a time, and I think that the Ascent might be that game, Zemi, that actually you might have to overlook the isometric view, and actually after playing it, you might they're onto something here. I got to go play Diablo 3 and Diablo 2 Special Edition that's releasing, and then you become a fan, and that's all you play.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I have played Diablo 3. I played it with a buddy. The only reason why I was playing that is because my buddy wanted me to play it with him. Can I say that I didn't enjoy the game? No, I can't say that. I would never play it by myself, though. And so maybe the online functionality will really get me addicted to the game. I just don't really know until I actually have my hands on the controller and I'm playing it.
Okay, I mean, listen, completely fair. Real quick, I want to give shout out to Yasid Baez in the chat, and the reason why I want to bring him up is because he listed what seems to be, if this again, this is his opinion. I want to agree with his opinion. If this comes to fruition, this is going to be one hell of a second half of the year for Xbox. He says here, June would be Psychonauts 2, July would be Flight Simulator. He has August being Scorn and the Ascent, September being Starfield, October he reversed it being Forza, and Halo closing out November. I mean, holy shit, if they were able to pull that together. I mean,
yeah, I mean that would be absolutely impressive. I mean, night and day from where they have been during the Xbox One generation for sure. And once again, it kind of at that point will then tell people that have still held off on Game Pass. There's games every single month coming out. It gives that extra reason to subscribe because you're constantly getting that high quality content.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it keeps people paying for the service because you keep getting games that go from single developed indie titles to AAA bombs. And again, it's something that you cannot get on Nintendo, and you get something similar, but not really on PSN. But let's get a Pong Soul's final opinion on this, and we'll get everyone out of here. For you, Pong, after seeing, I mean, obviously, if you go back to the May 7th event of 2020 that a lot of people dumped on, which I thought was an 8.5 out of 10, I still stand by that. One of the big games coming out of that May 7th show was The Ascent. And I think that the Neon Giant, who again, I have to keep saying this number, that game that you saw that they just played for you on the ID at Xbox show is made by 14 developers. That's sick. And I have very high hopes for this game. For you, what were your personal takeaways? Was your hype meter even moved even higher?
I don't know if my hype meter can get any higher for this game. But every time, this is one of those games that every time they show it off, it just gets better and better, which is incredible to say, because had they launched it originally like they were going to holiday 2020. And I would have been happy with what already they had shown. Ever since I first saw this game, this has been at the top of my list for a game that I want to have in my hands. So, but what they've done is each time that they've shown it, you can tell that they've gone back and they're repolishing and repolishing and
Yeah.
repolishing. Like you, Boom, I was disappointed that we didn't get a launch date. I actually actually was thinking that they might stealth drop it during the show.
Hoping, dude. I had the fingers crossed. I had the 4-leaf clover out.
I know. I was all ready for it. You know, and that might have been unrealistic, you know, but at the same time, that's where I'm at with this game. And to see this latest trailer that they showed, gameplay, the particle effects, the attention to detail that they've put into this game is off the charts. You know, I'm a lover of Cyberpunk 2077. Okay, I'm in the group that thinks it's one of the best games to come out last gen. But at the same time, this is a different type of level of detail because of the type of game it is. They can go in and do even a greater amount to the environments. You know, with the isometric view. I love the isometric view. Again, Diablo 2, you can go all the way back. 4-player co-op games and co-op games in general are a major part of what makes Game Pass great, like Zemi was talking about, right? I'm a lone wolf player, been a lone wolf player for a long time, but this year I have focused on gaming more with the community and my friends. And so having these multiplayer games, which are coming back in force, we just saw It Takes Two come out. We see Second Extinction. We see
I'm so hyped for that game, dude.
Yeah, exactly. We see Aliens, the new Aliens game coming out, which is going to be co-op. Co-op is coming back in force right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great thing because again, to sit down and play with people is a different type of experience. And this game perfectly lines up with all of those. And to have like a looter style Diablo type game in a cyberpunk world is a dream come true for me. And what they've done here is create something special, Boom. And I think you are onto something when you say that this could be an explosion, a next big title, even though it's only a 14 member team developing it, and it's not considered a triple A big budget style game. I think this could be the next huge hit that makes waves, because everything I'm seeing right now is something, it's coming together in a way that's special. And I think we're going to see that when it finally does launch. And so, yeah, my hype meter for this game is off the charts. I cannot wait to get a final launch date because I'm going to have it pre-downloaded, ready to rock and roll. And I should mention Outriders. Outriders is coming out this week. Another co-op developed game.
Thursday.
Yep, Thursday. This again goes back to everything we've been talking about, the amount of content that's coming out for us. To see a 14-member team develop a game like this just lends to the credence that we are in for an amazing generation. And this is just the beginning. We're in the first 10 minutes of the first quarter here of this generation. We're already seeing things like this, like the Ascent come out. I'm so hyped for not only that game, but just the future of where gaming's going, that these small teams can create experiences like this for us to enjoy. So yeah, I'm absolutely off the charts with this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, listen, folks, this has been one hell of a show. Not only did we get to all of the topics, we're able to hit 5 topics on a show that normally runs 90 minutes. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself enough that A, you dropped a like, and B, if you're not subscribed, you hit the subscribe button, because we are marching towards 8,000. The goal is to try and hit 10K before E3 2021. And listen, again, I'm happy to. My goal was to hit 10K in 2021. Period. I would love to hit it before E3. That would be a big deal for me because I had no idea that I was going to be able to get to this point in my very short YouTube career. Real quick before we get on out of here, there was a super chat that came in once again. Wow, dude, Raiden Blade, your generosity today has been off the charts. Thank you for an additional $2 super chat. And says, I believe at E3 Game Pass will be over 30 to 50 million. I think you're close. I think you're on something with 30. Because I think that they're close to 25 or not past 25 already. I think, and again, this is just my opinion, it would be great for Xbox to be able to go up and do their digital event and say, now we have 30 million players subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. That would be a big deal. Do I think 50? No. Do I think 30? Almost guaranteed. And you could probably tack on another 10 for the remainder of the year. And that, of course, that's just my opinion. I think that they could easily, with the games they have coming out, get to that 40 million by the end of 2021. Again, could I be wrong? Probably, but you just never know. I mean, the amount of games coming in. Again, I said this before, and I'll say it in closing. There's going to be a point in the industry that even if you are a diehard Sony guy or gal, and your two consoles are the Switch and the PlayStation, whether that be the 4, the 5, whatever, you are going to look over at the other side of the lawn and be like, damn, that is some green effing grass. And it's going to come a point where, real quick, we'll just touch on that. And we'll do the outros. Pong, I want to go to you first. Do you believe that the overall value will not be able to be ignored anymore moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's already happening, Boom. I was just about to jump in on you there a little bit because I think it's already happening. I think you're seeing the shift as people do look at it. And I think Outriders went a long ways to solidifying that fact, because I think a lot of people know, even if they are the diehards, like you said, Boom, I think a lot of people know in their hearts of hearts, this is just the beginning of something special. And look at what we already have. We have nearly 400 games in Game Pass right now. And to think back when we were kids, Boom, and we were lucky to get one game per holiday and for your birthday.
Yeah.
and then maybe, rent a game, once or twice a month from Blockbuster or wherever you rented games from. That was our life. And we looked forward to those times. And can you imagine being a kid nowadays and for Christmas you get a Series X or a Series S and your parents subscribe to Game Pass and you open it up and there's nearly 400 games waiting for you. I mean, that's like a dream come true. We could not have imagined that. So I think even the diehards now are realizing that this is the start of a trend. Okay. This is not something that's going to go away. It's not something that's going to fail. Microsoft has set this up starting years ago for success. And now we're starting to see the gifts come out of that, right? We're starting to see all these amazing experiences that we get for $15 a month. And it's ridiculous value. And it's something that no matter who you are, if you're any type of gamer, whether you like indie games, whether you like AAA games, whatever the case may be, you cannot ignore the fact that for $15 a month, as you sit there and pay nearly $20 for Netflix, now Disney Plus just went up, I think, to, I don't know what it is, $8, $10.
It went up $1.
Yeah, $1, something like that. As you're paying for all these other subscriptions, how can you sit there and deny yourself if you are a gamer and you enjoy, at any level? How can you sit there and say to yourself, that $15 a month isn't worth it? There is no way you can do that. I mean, again, there is a way, obviously. You could deny it all day long. But at the same time, in the back of your head, you got to be thinking, I'm missing out on something. That FOMO starts to kick in because for $15 a month, you are getting hours upon hours upon hours of gaming. And that can't be experienced anywhere else. PS Now is good, but it's nowhere near what Game Pass is offering you right now. Yeah. And if they do decide to pivot, good on them, because they're going to need to, like you said, Boom, because this is the trend and this is where the gaming industry is going. Like it or not, This is what's happening, and you're going to miss out on a lot of things if you don't subscribe. So absolutely.
Yeah, and closing, Zemi, before we get to your outros, do you agree or disagree that at some point Game Pass just can no longer be denied, and even the exclusive PlayStation players are going to have to, or potentially want to, maybe dabble on the other side of the fence? You're muted, Zemi.
Hey, yeah, that's the first time that's happening.
That is the first time.
Man,
You're well. Listen,
were you making an offering at the God Howard?
I think God Howard might have stopped by his house.
Praise be his name, for sure. Praise be his name. No, I think for sure. Like, I mean, that's the thing about value, right? You know, if you offer incredible value, like that is a huge motivator, right? What a year or so ago, we were all talking about the Xbox, like the new consoles, the new PlayStation, the new Xbox, and so often we were hearing, oh, this one's more powerful. No, this one's more powerful, and people were acting like power really mattered, and to some extent it does, but not as much as value, not as much as your bottom dollar at the end of the day, and yes, eventually we will see people double dipping into game, into Game Pass, and it could lead a big exodus from the PlayStation ecosystem. PlayStation guys could flock over to the Xbox brand because of the value offered, right? For instance, why should they pay $60-$70 for Outriders whenever they could get it in Game Pass, right? But I think what we will more than likely see is we'll probably see PlayStation more willing to adopt this kind of business model. And I think that they've been very, very hesitant to doing that so far because of, a couple of different reasons. I think the biggest one is that they just don't know if it's going to succeed, right? There's a difference between us gamers, thinking it's going to succeed, hoping that it's going to succeed, because versus a company thinking that it's going to succeed and putting all of their eggs in one basket kind of thing, right? But then also, I think PlayStation is trying to figure out how to financially transition themselves over there. I do think that we will see something similar to what Xbox is doing over on PlayStation with Sony doing it. And I think it's going to be their way of competing, right? They're going to have to do something and, copying what Xbox is doing or taking what they're doing and improving upon it makes the most sense, right? And so it's either one of two things are going to happen. Either a lot of PlayStation people are, going to come over to the ecosystem and Sony's going to lose out on a lot of money, or they're going to transition sooner than later. And, we're going to, as gamers, really, really be having a great time because now we have both of these companies competing at the same level to grab our dollar. So regardless of what happens, us gamers are going to win at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Because competition is going to force these companies to do whatever they have to do to maintain. And so yeah, I mean the value is you can't deny the value, right? $10 a month to play all of these amazing games, it's unheard of, like Pong was saying, whenever I was a kid too, I probably got, maybe 2-3 games for Christmas. Right. And, I thought that was amazing. And that was so wonderful. I couldn't even imagine nowadays with kids being able to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass and have hundreds of games at their disposal. I mean, that's just unreal for me to even think about. I would have been the happiest. I would have been the happiest kid in the candy store if Game Pass was out whenever I was.
Well, think about that for a second. Game Pass has become the ultimate pack-in. You are bringing home your new console with 400 games in there. I mean, Jesus Christmas. Yeah. I mean, how could you beat that?
Well, I mean, but like, just take it a step further. You don't even need the console.
You know what, dude? You're right.
You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah.
And that's the incredible part. I mean, it's just mind blowing how well thought through this seems to be from Xbox, right? There's no way around it. Sony will have to find better ways to compete. Maybe they will adopt what Xbox Game Pass has done, or maybe they'll do something else and approve upon it. But one thing one thing is true. They're going to have to find a better way to compete than what they currently are doing, because what they're doing right now is dangerous, right? Because Game Pass is just too much value. There's only so many hardcores that are on the PlayStation console that would be willing to, pay $60, $70 for every single game whenever they could potentially get it on Game Pass for $10 a month.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, everything that everyone had to say is spot on. And like I said, Microsoft, more specifically, Phil Spencer, has positioned the Xbox to win. And I think, as Zemi said when Xbox wins, we all win for sure. And like I said, we're going to see a value. It's an unprecedented value. That's the end of the story. But folks, this has been a great, outstanding, nearly 2-hour show. John B, welcome, brother. He drops a $5 super chat. It's another great show and panel. So looking forward to this generation. Yeah, brother, you and me both. But real quick, before we get to the outros, I want to remind everyone tomorrow, you're getting a special developer interview episode of Xbox One-on-One. I'm going to be sitting down with Joe, maker of Song of Iron, one of the big games shown at the ID at Xbox. That game has tremendous potential, and I think it's going to be a big deal. Remember, that's just one man making this game, and I think what he has there is something ultra special. Not only am I going to be talking to him live on the air, folks, he's going to be taking some live questions, unlike we've never seen that before. Usually developers, they don't take live on the air questions, and he wanted to do that. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope that you can join myself as well as Joe, the developer of Song of Iron, while we break down his new game. And we're going to get some community questions in there. And hopefully, again, I will vet the questions. Don't ask, obviously, I don't think he could do release date. That's one of the ones that I would have loved to know. But obviously he's under NDA, so we don't know when it's going to release. But, if you ask a question that is relevant to the game, rest assured we will make it our business to answer it. Listen, Semi, you got a lot going on, brother. Not only do you have an incredible YouTube channel, not only are you very social on social media, you have ConstantGamer.com that has been doing blockbuster numbers, and we want to get people to move over there because you know what? That kind of journalism is the kind of journalism we should trust and enjoy. Talk about that while you get on out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. So ConstantGamer.com is a website that I made, and it was pretty much after, hearing feedback, on many of Boom's podcasts of, and hearing a lot of discussions, in the chat about how, gaming journalism seems to be a lot more biased than what it previously used to be, right? And so that's pretty much the idea of Constant Gamer. It's a website like IGN, like Kotaku, like GameSpot. The only difference is that our approach to journalism is more objective, less bias, and just more honest, accurate reporting, right? We talk about the facts and we completely separate our opinions from those facts. And we do gaming news, game reviews, featured articles. I think we're going to start doing some game previewed articles talking about games before they even come out here relatively soon. And of course we do reviews. I can't remember if I said that or not. But in addition to all of that, just great journalism, we also have a community section where we post gaming related quizzes. And soon there will be even more to that section. We're still working on some finer details. But if any of you guys that are listening right now would be interested in potentially writing for a site like ConstantGamer.com, just go to ConstantGamer.com. Then over in the top right-hand corner of the website, there's a button that says Contact Us. Just click on that, click Join the Team, and submit in a short little application, and I'll be in touch to get you writing for the site. And Boom, thank you so much. Pleasure as always. The show is amazing. Great topics. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for being here as always. Pong Soul, brother, you are the rookie sensation that I'm happy to say I signed before you were taken by a bigger entity, and you're part of every Tuesday's program. But you're also going to be a part of Friday evenings Xbox Ultimate podcast, and of course that's run by our very good friend, your brother from another mother, Mav. Tell everyone about where they can reach out to you, strike up a conversation, and also tell people about your Saturday podcast podcast that just started last week and to great success.
Thank you so much, Boom. Again, always a pleasure to be here. You and Zemi are awesome as always, and I love it. Chat, you guys were absolutely on fire. I was reading through your comments. Great discussions in there. I'd love to see it. That means we are doing our job and bringing up good topics. So thank you all for coming out. We cannot do what we do without all of you, and love you all for showing up each and every week and giving the support. As Boom was saying, Friday night, Xbox Ultimate at 9 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Central Time with Fun Speculation, a.k.a. Mav, whichever way you want to say it. My brother from another, his wife Caitlin, 3-bit. Assassin Lupa is back. We've got Psychonauts 8th added to the team a couple of weeks ago, and Lady AF is as well. So, and we've got Boom coming on the show. Man, it's going to be a crazy, crazy night. So come check us out. Then, like Boom also was saying, I just started a new show with Steel Rain, my other brother from another, and that's called Living Split Screen, and that's Saturday mornings. That's right.
Love the name, dude. Love the name.
Thank you so much. We went back and forth on that one for quite a while, actually. But yeah, Living Split Screen, Saturday mornings. We're going to wake you guys up. That starts at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central Time. And so just grab your coffee and sit down. It's a free-flowing, organic show. Just me and Steel just talking. We don't have set topics all the time. We have some general topics that we want to talk about, but we want to get the chat involved. So if you guys bring up something good in the chat, we're going to talk about it. We had a great first show last week. Tons of support from the community. Again, this community is just out of this world when it comes to that, and I was so happy to see it. So we're looking to grow, so come check us out. Living Split Screen on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, LVNG Split Screen, all one word, capital S's. So find us there, reach out to us, follow us, man. We're growing, but we're going to have a good time and include everybody. Then Saturday nights, you can find me on the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam, Fuzzy Belvedere, Centurion, and Stagorilla. And that's got a new time because of the time change. So it's 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central Time on Saturday nights. Another fantastic show. PTK has been doing it for a long time, almost 5 years now. So stop by, check us out. Thank you all again for coming out. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Of course, thank you to the over 400 people that tuned in. Of course, I have to say a big thank you to the super chats that continue to come in and obviously help fund Double Barrel Gaming. Obviously, that helps me with getting new equipment, which I've upgraded pretty much everything. And of course, helps with the giveaways, which we're going to be doing towards the end of the year, like we did last year. But of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day, folks, it'll be important to you. And that's something that my father taught me when we were kids, my brothers and I. And I think it's more relevant now than it ever has been. And he used to say this: son, treat others how you want to be treated. Also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you'll have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.